Yo, what's going on, guys? Try back again here, bringing another video. This one's going to be a review of the movie Chronicle. Just got done seeing it with my girlfriend tonight. Absolutely loved it. For those of you who have not seen Chronicle yet, and you like the superhero movie genre or comic books in general, super villains, that kind of stuff, X-Men, and anything, sort of in that genre of fiction and sort of like sci-fi, but, comic book style movies and, literature shows. Chronicle is definitely something different. It's definitely something that I can recommend to anybody who likes that. To also anybody who likes, teenage movies. And but if you don't like superpowers and stuff like that, then you're probably not going to get into it. So anybody who does, I can't recommend it enough, and definitely consider checking it out because there's really not much else out in the movies right now, that's except for maybe a rehash of Star Wars in 3D if you're interested in that. Um, Now, for the rest of this review, this will contain spoilers. I just can't dive into the details of Chronicle too much without, spoiling some of it for you. So anybody who's worried about that and is considering to go see it, I would, probably advise, to, not watch the rest of this video. As for a score for you guys, as a general score, I'm going to give it, I guess, a 7.5 out of 10. Okay, so now that's, spoilers out of the way. So yeah, so this movie was very interesting, a very interesting movie, a different take on the sort of superhero comic book genre that we're not used to seeing. Even in comic book form, we don't usually often get to see the main character actually be the quote unquote, bad guy or super villain, so to speak. Um, the character that we mostly follow, the protagonist, is hardly ever a bad guy when it comes to superhero, this kind of stuff. You just don't follow the bad guy very often. There aren't too many storylines in most comic books these days that follow the bad guy. Not many. I mean, we've had we had in Marvel with Norman Osborn. They had the Dark Avengers, and the Dark Reign and all that kind of stuff, and that followed Norman. So that's one example of a story that in comic books and this kind of stuff that followed the quote unquote bad guy. But there aren't too many. It's just if you were to compare them, I'd say probably 90% to 95% of stories in comic books follow the good guys. That's all there is to it. It's just how it is. So in Chronicle, we get to see pretty much the three main characters are the three teenage friends who stumble upon some kind of like alien technology, this kind of stuff. And basically, what it does, it gives them telekinetic powers. Okay, they're high school students, pretty much, and we get to see the kid who's more popular. He's like running to be class president and all that kind of stuff. His name's Steve. The other kid, Matt, who is he's pretty he's into the popularity contest and all that kind of stuff of high school, and he's sort of like the cousin to our main character, which is Andrew, who is in a lot of ways Andrews shares a lot of the same characteristics as a character from X-Men, Magneto. I got a lot of Magneto vibes from him. In a lot of ways he's very similar, but he's different. He's not exactly the same. I mean, he just he seems a lot of that way to me for some reason. But he is much different. Of course, Magneto being that he has a power over magnetism. Andrew in Chronicle, all three of these characters become telekinetic. So they can do a lot of things with that. I mean, if you think about like somebody like Jean Grey, picture like Jean Grey, except maybe I don't know, later on, like her Phoenix stage, where she has the ability to do, she's very powerful. By the end of the movie, we get to see these guys. When they first start off, they're just messing around with a few little things. They're moving around small objects, stuff like this. In the trailer, you can see the one guy's moving around like a teddy bear to scare a little girl, and they're just playing around. So, a lot of the scenes in the beginning are just kind of like, the three teenagers having fun, so to speak. But then we get to dive into Andrew's story more. He's he has a lot of problems at home. His mom is dying. His dad is an alcoholic and beats the shit out of him. And there's this is also a found footage film, so it's kind of shot with a camera. So that I'm not a big fan of found footage in general. The audience watching it through a camera that the character is actually holding. But in this movie, it works pretty well. I got to say, it really does. It works better than almost any other movie I've seen found footage in. And it makes it feel more realistic, versus because it's hard to make a superhero movie feel realistic. It really is. But I think in this case that the found footage really aids it in that because it really does feel quite realistic. I mean, quite a bit, and it really adds a lot of validity to the story. You get to see another thing too is the casting choices. Like when they go to this quote unquote like it's like a rave party, they go there and you get to see all the teenagers around, and they actually look like their ages are about teenagers. Like they're about 18, 19, and I like that because we take that for granted sometimes because on TV you get to watch shows like I remember Freaks and Geeks was one of my favorite teenage show cartoon or sorry shows that was ever teenage high school type shows that's ever been around, and almost all the actors in that show were like way older. They were in like their like 20s and stuff. Some of them like Seth Rogen was in it, and all kinds of other good characters or actors that are doing well now. um, you know in this movie everybody feels like they really are teenagers, like they look like they're teenagers, like they look like they're 18 or 17 maximum, maybe 19, stuff like that. And that's cool. That adds a lot of to the realism of it to make it feel more realistic. The dad when he's beating Andrew up and this kind of stuff, and some of the stuff he's doing, he really he plays his role very real. I mean, it feels like because of the found footage angle that they use, it feels like you're actually watching like a web, like you guys watching a web camera. It feels kind of like that, like it really feels realistic because the angle's not always perfect. The angle, you can't always see his face. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just see his body or it's centered on Andrew and you don't see his dad what he's doing until he messes him up or does something. Um, so you really feel for this kid because he's Andrew, he's socially outcast, like he can't fit in. Even halfway through the movie, using his telekinetic powers, Steve, the more popular one, who's running for class president, he talks him into doing a talent show, and basically they just use their powers to create like some kind of magic show, so that people don't really know that they can actually do that. They think it's like all illusion and stuff like that, and they think, wow, how do they do that, this kind of stuff. So then Andrew gets a little bit of popularity from that, but he's still socially outcast, and quickly that goes away as soon as they go to a party and stuff, and he goes back to feeling socially outcast again very quickly. Even though he's not completely, he starts feeling that way very quickly. And it's something to see this kid get picked on at school, and then at home he's got all these problems, and then on the way to school he gets picked on by these guys in his neighborhood. So once he's given this kind of power, and he really starts getting strong, he out of the three, he starts going off really quickly. He starts going off on people, and before you know it, he basically, his mom needs some money for her surgery or whatever, and he basically goes out and he goes about, he goes out and he starts like kind of like robbing people that did him wrong, but not all people that deserved it. Like he robs like a convenience store and he gets messed up in the, and he ends up in a hospital after doing it, and he just makes some really really stupid decisions about just the things he does are really really dumb there. He's just a teenager, you know what I mean, given this kind of power that he doesn't know how to handle, so he's just he does dumb things, like he uses his power to get back at people that mess with him before, and the thing about that is, I mean, yeah, emotionally that's going to make him feel some kind of like I got back at these guys type of thing. But further than that, it's going to cause like obviously the law and stuff, like you're going to get yourself caught really quickly, really quick. Like if you really wanted to get money, I mean, think about it, these guys can fly, you know what I mean, because they're telekinetic, they can move their own bodies, move their body up or wherever. um, if you really need the money, he could easily go up to an ATM that's not on camera, okay, wear a suit, fly around, you know destroy the ATM and take all the money out of it. Boom, there's all your money you need, right? Obviously, if he did that, then the storyline wouldn't have ended the way it did. But everything starts to really change once his mom dies, and once you see him kind of kill Steve, not on purpose, but sort of halfway, and then he starts to go down the dark side, and before you know it, he's lost his mind. He goes to kill his dad, and all the other stuff that he does, until the other surviving character, Matt. A pretty cool scene at the end there where he uses the major spoilers, last warning. The big, what was it, spear, statue spear right through him, and he impales him on it. So that, I mean, it's just, it's a very, very different movie from what you're used to from superhero movie. I mean, comic book superhero genre. You're just not used to seeing something like this. And, you know, I'd like to say almost that I'd like to see a sequel from it, but I don't even know where they would go from here. You know, like I guess they could follow the character of Matt, but I don't know how interesting that would be. You know, to be honest, they'd probably just be milking it. I still would be on board to see it. I think because I really, really enjoyed Chronicle. I thought it was very well done. It was really cool to see, you know, a villain be the main character. Very interesting. The ending was good. It was, I don't want to say it was unexpected. It was just kind of, in my mind anyway, I was thinking, you know, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to, you know, stop him from using his powers? Maybe the cops will shoot him, or is he going to, and no, but no, you know, Matt, he goes all out and he uses the, you know, the spear and goes right through him, man. It was, pretty crazy scene. Good action scenes at the end. The CG in the movie is pretty good. When they're flying, a little bit of it there looks a little bit, but you know, you can't really. I mean, how else could you realistically do those things without CG? It doesn't look too bad. Is what I want to say. It doesn't look too bad, and it's very interesting to me the story of Andrew and how he goes down that side and becomes pretty much quote unquote evil or the bad guy pretty much as the movie goes through. Um, you really feel for the character and all that kind of stuff. And at the end, you know, you've got Matt. He goes to Tibet, and he says basically that you know he knows that Andrew's not a bad person, and you know that's such an interesting psychologically. This movie has a lot of psychological undertones that you know you can look into and you can think about it. You know, philosophy, philosophy. You know, a lot of the philosophy behind you know the things that happen and like Matt saying that, for example. Well, when it comes down to it, I mean, when you look at it, you can't really judge a person for who they are underneath. You know, that's the thing. You have to judge someone by their actions. You know, yes, you know, if you look at any person who's bad along the way, they probably had things. I mean, there are some people that are innately just evil or bad people, but most of them, you know, are a lot like this. You know, this character is that they have trouble, you know, socially fitting in, which a lot of people do. It doesn't mean you have to, you know, be like that. But then you've got a dad at home who beats the crap out of them, you know, and all this kind of stuff that happens, and he's just, you know, all these things, you know, as a kid, he probably wasn't a bad person, but all these things, you know, shape you, and the biological machine just changes and becomes like that. And that's why really you can't really judge a person or, you know, judge a person's character by, you know, how they think. You know what I mean? Like their thoughts and their actions. It's all about your actions, really. Because when you see the end of this movie, as nice of a person as he may have been and how shitty of a life this character had, he hurt all these people. You know, probably killed tons of people, and you know, just he lost it. He wigged out, and you feel for the character for that, but you still see that the character's evil. And it's kind of a you know psychologically, it's very interesting to see that kind of progression of a character. You know, from you know just being like a sort of socially outcast kid in school to be given great power, and then to have you know his whole life just come crashing down around him, which it was probably going to do anyway. Like his mom was going to die anyway, but you know it's just like you know it's just you know just it just ended up being that way. So it didn't really change much that he was able to get those type of powers. I mean, it kind of comes to the question like, what are you going to do with them? You know, I mean, you know, like you're probably going to be studied if you know if the police and the government find out about it. So it's a very interesting psychological movie with you know a lot of cool themes and you know just a wonderful superhero movie. It's dark though. You know I wouldn't recommend it to just the average viewer. You know obviously all those you know all you hardcore you know comic book fans are going to love this kind of movie because it's so different from anything you would have seen up until now. But you know the average viewer, I'm not sure how the average viewer would take it because it's so different. You know like how would people feel about the fact that it follows, you know, a character's progression to being evil. You know, I mean, there aren't too many other movies and things like that that do that. For example, one would be as Star Wars is out right now. You know, Star Wars, you've got Anakin as he becomes evil, and you know that was received fairly well. But everybody already knew he kind of had to be because the other movies came out first. You know, it's part of the storyline. But this one, just being that it's a standalone movie, you know, I don't know. So I can see a lot of people if they don't really like this movie because you know it's shot from that point. Like it could be shot from the point of I mean, the easy way to go about it would be to shoot it from the point of Matt's the character Matt because he's just basically your atypical good guy who you know generally wants to just do the good to do the right thing or Steve you know either of those two. But no, they chose the character out of the three that ends up abusing abusing the power and you know doing a lot of horrible things with it, killing a lot of people with it. So yeah, that's pretty much my review for this movie, guys. Let me know what you thought about Chronicle. I thought it was a very, very interesting movie and a lot of fun. As I said earlier, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it deserves that. I was surprised by this movie. I went in thinking that the movie would be, I don't know, it's just going to be another superhero movie because that to me, I don't just want to see, you know, a formula and have all these movies just pump out the same thing over and over again. I like to see stuff that does things differently. Found footage superhero movie. That's kind of interesting. I don't remember another one of those. How about we follow the villain in this movie instead of following the heroes? That's interesting. I think this is a very good movie, and definitely think everyone who likes this kind of stuff should definitely check it out. So that's my review, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought about Chronicle. That's it for this one, guys. Later. Peace.